Splatoon 3 has been one of the most criticized Nintendo Switch games releasing in 2022. The main criticisms are that the game is not doing any massive changes. It's simply fine-tuning previous formulas and modes and turning that into a new game. So since there isn't any massive change, people claim that the casual community will not buy Splatoon 3, as it is very similar to Splatoon 2, especially since it's on the same console. People claim that all the new additions could work as a DLC or even an update for Splatoon 2. People claim that Splatoon 3 is just a lazy copy and paste of Splatoon 2 that is on the same console as Splatoon 2. What people seem to have wanted was centering the game around Battle Royale on huge maps like other shooters, instead of keeping the 4v4 turf war and ranked mode formula. People also wanted some sort of new horde mode, an open world campaign, and simply wanted a Splatoon game so different from past entries that it isn't even a Splatoon game anymore. It would be Splat Night or COD of Duty with an open world campaign. I'm going to explain why these wants are really weird and honestly wouldn't be good for the Splatoon series. I'm also going to go over why we are getting Splatoon 3 on the Switch, why casual players will buy Splatoon 3, why making it a Splatoon 2 DLC wouldn't have made any sense, and why it has already and will continue to justify itself as a fully fledged sequel to Splatoon 2. I will not be talking about single player and Salmon Run, as I have already made videos about them. If you are interested in checking those out, I will link them in the description. Okay, so on paper, Battle Royale on huge maps with around 10 to 20 players sounds very cool, right? Well, in reality, putting Battle Royale on huge maps in the Splatoon series would be an absolute disaster. This is because of what Splatoon is as a shooter. Splatoon is all about movement. All weapons in Splatoon have little range compared to other shooters. All sub-weapons are utility tools or bombs with very fast explosion times compared to other shooters. All special weapons in Splatoon are fast-paced. Death occurs very often in Splatoon. You have very little health and recover health rapidly in Splatoon. Splatoon is all about having high mobility and little range. You have to get very close to other players in order to kill, compared to other shooters. Splatoon is a fast, movement-based shooter. So what would happen if Splatoon suddenly had huge maps? The game flow and meta would fight its own identity. Splatoon is all about fast-paced movement, but very large areas don't need much movement. You mostly just have to hold areas and fight from a distance. In other shooters, many weapons, even pistols or handguns, can fight from a distance, though it's hard. In the Splatoon series, if someone is out of favorable range, there is nothing you can do other than get close, which is hard on massive maps. So if we were to get huge maps in Splatoon, long-range weapons like chargers and Hydra spot wings would literally be the best weapons in the game. Short-range weapons would never have a chance of getting close. Do you see what this means? Low mobility weapons would dominate. High mobility weapons would struggle. In a movement-based shooter, the game flow would literally fight its identity. The game would be an unplayable mess. The only way to make huge maps work in Splatoon would be by giving every single weapon at least 2 or 3 times its current range, increase health, decrease health recovery, and drastically lower mobility. At that point, the game would be so different and unrelated to previous entries that Nintendo might as well just make a brand new shooter series. It wouldn't be a fast movement-based shooter. it wouldn't be a Splatoon game. This is why Battle Royale on huge maps makes absolutely no sense in Splatoon. Centering Splatoon around Battle Royale on huge maps is like turning the next Smash game into a 3D arena game. Splatoon is merely 7 years old. It's ridiculously early to reinvent the formula. Splatoon 3 is on the Switch because Nintendo has yet to make a definitive Splatoon game. What I mean by definitive is a Splatoon game that came out on a successful console, was well polished and not rushed, and the devs knew what they were doing. We have yet to get a definitive Splatoon game. Splatoon 1 was good, but it came out on a console that sold a mere 13.5 million copies. It also had a fun, but horrible and completely unfixable game flow and meta. It released on a failed console, and the devs weren't entirely sure what they were doing. Splatoon 2 was a rushed mess. With updates and time, it became good and worthy of being called a sequel. But it's noticeable that it's a rushed game to its core. Since it's a rushed game to its core, no matter how many updates or DLCs you give it, Splatoon 2 will never reach its full potential as it's rushed. Like the famous quote, "A delayed game is eventually good, a rushed game is forever bad." Splatoon 2 isn't necessarily bad, by any means, but it will never reach its full potential because it was rushed. Looking at the past, Splatoon 1 was good, but the first of its genre, and on a failed console. Splatoon 2 was on a successful console, but horribly rushed. When we look at Splatoon 3, it's on a successful console, and the devs are taking their time. Development for Splatoon 3 started around early autumn of 2019. The game is releasing in early autumn of 2022. 3 years in total. The devs have years of experience with the formula this time around. The devs took their time, knew what they were doing, and the game is releasing on a successful console. It's the definitive Splatoon game. If Splatoon 3 were reinventing itself, we would never have gotten a definitive Splatoon game. It's also good that it's on the Switch, because it's accessible for Splatoon 2 owners. If it were on a new console, Splatoon 2 players would have to pay $60 for the new game, plus hundreds of dollars for the console. It's so much easier to simply buy a new game instead of a new game, a new console, and console accessories. Splatoon 3 is finally the definitive Splatoon game, and it's accessible for Splatoon 2 players. I keep seeing an endless supply of people saying that people who play Splatoon casually will not buy Splatoon 3 since they own Splatoon 2. But Splatoon 3 will have something that Splatoon 2 has lacked for years: full game support. New Splatfests and events every month for years. Support is what casual players like best. They like trying out the new weapons, gear, and stages that release every now and then. They like participating in the new monthly Splatfest. There's constantly something new to bring casual players back to the game. But other than small balance changes and some Splatfests, Splatoon 2 has lacked support for 3 years. Since then, there has been nothing to bring a casual player back to Splatoon 2 unless they very recently bought it. But for several years, Splatoon 3 will have everything a casual player could want out of a Splatoon game. Splatfests every month, new weapons, new gear, and stages to try out monthly. There will constantly be something bringing a casual player back to the game. When you look at Splatoon 3 like this, it has everything that Splatoon 2 has lacked for years, and everything that casual players love. I really don't get why people think that casuals won't buy the game. Another thing about Splatoon 2 casual players upgrading to Splatoon 3 is that it's very accessible for them, since it's still on the Switch. Making everything Splatoon 3 has to offer, a DLC or update for Splatoon 2, would be seriously ridiculous, and would turn Splatoon 2 into an unplayable mess. Let me explain why this would happen. Splatoon 2's game flow revolves around staying alive, spamming supportive specials, poking with bombs, holding areas, and overall playing very supportively. From what we can tell, Splatoon 3's game flow revolves around being aggressive, staying mobile, and playing more selfishly. The two game flows and metas are quite different. So how on earth would putting two completely different game flows and metas in one game work? The only way to make Splatoon 3's content work in Splatoon 2 would be by rebalancing all main and sub-weapons, scrapping out most special weapons, literally getting rid of the majority of Splatoon 2's content and replacing it with new content. Splatoon 2 would literally be Splatoon 3 on the same game card, and it would have Octo Canyon, Octo Expansion, and Return of the Mammalians. Three campaigns in one game. Realistically, Splatoon 3 could never work as Splatoon 2 content. Splatoon 3 is giving us the definitive version of the Splatoon series. It's fixing past issues. It's accessible for Splatoon 2 players and a lot of people since it's on the Switch. A new game will bring in new players a lot more successfully than a 5-year-old game. It's giving us a campaign that's stemming up to be the best one yet. It's giving us new gear, new main weapons, new sub-weapons, new special weapons, new stages, new music, new aesthetic, and more. It's fixing spawn camping. It's giving us more movement options. It's giving us a much better meta and overall game flow. It's giving us a massive hub world. It's giving us a perfected version of Salmon Run. And there's still so much we don't know yet. What else could you want from a Splatoon game? Splatoon won't change for a while since it's only 7 years old. For comparison, Smash Bros. And Mario Kart are over 20 years old, and their gameplay hasn't changed much. If Splatoon 3 is exactly the same as Splatoon 2, then every Smash and Mario Kart is exactly the same as its previous entry. But we all know that this isn't true. Honestly, Splatoon 3 can't be judged so harshly before it's even released. We haven't even had a test fire or dedicated Nintendo Direct yet. No one cares about how Mario Kart and Smash Bros. Stay the same. Then with Mario Strikers Battle League and Switch Sports, people disliked how their existing content is rather limited, but I've seen a lot less criticisms about how their gameplay is similar to older games. For these reasons, I feel like Splatoon is looked at a lot more critically than other multiplayer Nintendo series. In the end, Splatoon 3 is stemming up to be the best Splatoon game yet, worthy of being called a sequel. If you want something very different from Splatoon 2 that's still a Splatoon game, remember that the series is only 7 years old. It will take a while for Splatoon to get spin-off games or massively change its mainline games. In the end, I hope I helped clear up the debate around Splatoon 3 being too similar to Splatoon 2. If you enjoyed my video, please consider liking and subscribing, as I would like to get 500 subscribers. I made some other videos focusing on Salmon Run and single player concern. Those will be linked in the video description. Thanks for watching!